and welcome to another edition of the Hitting the Hardwood podcast, your home for all the latest Minnesota Lynx in WNBA news, analysis, and coverage. Thank you for joining and tuning in for another episode this week. I'm your host, Mitchell Hansen, and I'm very excited to be joined by someone who I've actually been talking to for a little while about coming on this podcast since really I started it. Chelsea Leite, who's a Toronto-based writer and comedian who I get the pleasure of working with or working alongside at Winsider, covering the WNBA. Chelsea, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit. That right when I started the podcast, we talked about maybe having you on. So I'm thrilled that you joined me last second. I kind of threw it at you last second, and I'm excited to have you on. So thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Anytime.
If you could, let's start a little bit about getting to know you. If you could just kind of introduce yourself, where people can find your work, find out what you do, and kind of all of the above.
Yeah, I mean, well, you said I am based in Toronto, so I'm Canadian. Um, yeah, and I'm on Twitter, just like at Chelsea Leite. I'm on Instagram. I have a website where you can find a lot of my work. And I write about women's basketball, the WNBA. I also am on the Toronto Raptors beat. I write for a couple of different websites for them. And then I'm also a comedian. So I do improv and sketch comedy around Toronto, and I write for different comedy outlets as well. And yeah, that's the like elevator pitch version of me.
How'd you get involved in the sports side of things? Or I guess what came first? Was it comedy and then sports, or was it sports and then comedy, or kind of at the same time? How'd you get involved with that, or both sides?
Yeah, it was, well, I mean, in the span of my life, like if we're thinking about my entire life, it was sports before comedy because I played basically like every sport I could when I was in middle school. My athlete career didn't go much past like eighth grade. So, but then when I got into high school, I kind of started focusing more on like the arts and stuff like that. And so, in this, when we talk about not my life, but my career, comedy did come first because I pursued that before anything. And then, was just writing and stuff. And obviously, like, writing is a very hard career to, I'm sure, as you know, as a lot of people listening know, is a very hard career to pursue. And so when the pandemic happened and, you know, everybody was just kind of at home and trying to pivot depending on what their career was, there really wasn't a place to go do comedy unless you were doing it online, which was not really for me. And so I just got really into watching sports more than I ever did before, and discovered, I mean, at that time, it wasn't really easy to watch the WNBA in Canada. It's definitely different now, but started getting into the WNBA more. And through that, just like met people and started writing for these different outlets. And now, like 2 years later, it's kind of become just as equally my career as comedy, which is really fun. So yeah, it's been a cool ride.
When it comes to covering, kind of both sides of the game with covering the WNBA and the NBA, I know I've done that a little bit in the past with the Timberwolves and the Lynx at the same time. Still do a little bit of that with Canis Hoopus, but what is it like for you to be able to kind of cover both sides? Because obviously they're different seasons, or they're at different points in the year, so it's kind of nonstop. But what do you enjoy about maybe, both sides of things? You kind of get to separate them a little bit and still get to do what you enjoy. But what do you like about it, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the good thing about the NBA is that we have a team here in Toronto. So I like have a team to write about, to go to games, to have a community of people here that are on the same beat, which is nice. And obviously the season is longer, and there's a lot more like, like money and opportunity and stuff like that. A lot of people want, stuff about the NBA, which I get. And then you flip to the women's side, and I think what women's sports have always intrigued me by is just the fact that it's always like, when you're supporting women's sports, you're like automatically advocating for them, because that's just part of it. You have to advocate for these women. You have to be able to stand up for them and support them, and be really supportive in the face of a lot of adversity, both with them on the court and in the media as we're covering it. We're always going to have to fight more for coverage. We're always going to have to fight more to get our spots on. And even as, I watch the Toronto community try and get a WNBA team, it's like really cool for me to feel like I have a part in that through like speaking up and writing these pieces and writing for places like Winsider and trying to get the Toronto outlets to write more women's sports stuff. So it's a cool journey. I see the NBA and the Toronto Raptors where they are now. The Toronto Raptors are still a fairly new team. Like they're only like, less than 30 years old, but like seeing where they are now and seeing where say like the WNBA is in Toronto and being part of growing it is a really cool perspective to have on it. And I hope that in, however many years it is, I can look back and say like, oh, like I had a part in spreading the word and trying to get a team up here. So it's fun.
What that kind of leads into my next question. Obviously, there's a little bit of a Lynx, Canada tie in a few different aspects. I mean, obviously the game that's going to be coming up against Chicago in May in Canada. Obviously, the Lynx have a couple Canadian players with Bridger Carleton, Natalie Chanwa. What do you think? With the preseason game or with the game coming up that I just mentioned, what do you think that opportunity will bring? And then, at the end of the day, do you think that could, maybe open the eyes of people that maybe aren't convinced that, we should get a team in Canada? Or what opportunity do you think is there in the end?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely nice that there are more and more Canadians getting the shot. I mean, for the past couple of years, it's been kind of the trio of Natalie, Bridget, and Kia. Now, we had, Leticia Amahir get drafted. We have a couple of other Canadians coming up in the mix. So it's nice to see that the community down there is growing. But, we want the community up here to grow. We want a team. We want these players to be able to come and play on home court, whether they're just coming with their team that they're playing for, or they have the opportunity to play in Canada, like for a Canadian team. And yeah, it's been something that's been growing for a while. I think the first season that I really followed the WNBA and started covering it, it definitely wasn't a part of the conversation very much. It was just kind of a very abstract, like, oh, it'd be cool to have a team one day. But now it's something that people are actually talking about, actually excited about. There's, real, um, rumblings of things happening. And this game is really the first step in seeing if the community would really show up and support. And so far, I mean, the game is sold out. It's sold out in 2 days. The one day was pre-sale and the one day was like general sale. It's sold out. There's a ton of sponsorships, a ton of local businesses are coming in and trying to support and get the word out. And people that I know that don't even follow the WNBA yet, or even really follow men's basketball, are planning on coming and supporting just because they want to support the women, which I think is really cool. So, I mean, I truly believe that there is support up here and that a team would do well up here because Toronto is an incredibly diverse basketball community. And I think that it would be the type of place that would really welcome a team like that. But I mean, I also get that it's a business and you have to think about flights and money and all that kind of stuff too. So I'm it's definitely going to open the doors. And I do think their experiment, so to say, like if people are going to support is going to work, I think they will see a lot of support for it. But then the logistical stuff, I think, is what's going to hold us off a little bit longer. And maybe that is one of the reasons that the WNBA has been holding off because Toronto is one of those teams that, I mean, I think should be on the top of the list for expansion. So we'll see if we get more information as the season goes once we pass this game. And but yeah, it's gonna be really cool.
When it comes to the game, it's gonna be coming up in May. I guess what's the buzz in Toronto or even in Canada in general of that game? Are people talking about it? Is it gaining interest or what's it kind of been like surrounding that game so far?
Yeah, I mean, there's people that I know that have followed the WNBA for as many seasons as I have who are coming and they're really excited about it and they've been talking about it for a long time. So that's the one side that obviously you knew was going to come support and knew we're going to immediately be on board. And then the fun part is that there's been the completely other side, like I was mentioning earlier, of the people who don't really watch basketball or the people who aren't into it yet but want to get into it or the people who just want to support women and women's sports and so they're coming up to support because of that. And like I think the really nice thing is that I'm sure there are going to be a lot of young women there and a lot of like young female athletes, and that's going to be really fun to see them be able to see that support in a way that we haven't really been able to see here in Canada. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways that they've seen it. Hockey is, big here, and women's hockey is huge here. And so, but I'm excited for the young basketball players to be able to see that and see professional women's basketball for them. So it'll be fun, and I think it's gonna draw a big, diverse, crowd, because everybody here loves basketball, and I think there's a huge group that are coming just because it's basketball, and they don't really have that, like, oh, it's just women's basketball kind of perspective that we see a lot in coverage. So I'm excited to see all the people kind of show up and really get a taste of what the WNBA is all about.
I kind of view it as, I mean, it's very similar to what we talk about all the time with TV coverage, getting these games on TV. We've seen it with even the college game, the women's game specifically in college, of you get those games on prime or in primetime TV. You get them on ABC, you get them on ESPN. You have the stars like the Caitlin Clarks and the Paige Beckers, like that thrives and people watch it. Even casual basketball fans, they don't view it as women's basketball; they view it as basketball. And I view that as, the same way with the WNBA, and especially, with expanding it outside of the United States, such as Canada. You're getting it into the eyes of those people. You're getting into a different market. You're getting it on a different station, getting it in prime time. It'll only help the game grow. And I think, like you mentioned, it'll help those young fans at the same time too. And while they grow up, that's a norm, that's the norm for them. It's not, it's women's basketball isn't a new thing. It's just a thing. And I think that's something that's happening. It's obviously going to take time, and it has taken time, but I think that there's a huge opportunity there. And I think that this game in May will obviously be a jump start to that.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's exciting.
I guess when it comes, let's talk or transition a little bit into some Lynx, if you don't mind, since we do talk a fair amount of Lynx on this podcast. What, from your perspective, what do you think the season or off season's been like for the Lynx so far, and transitioning from last year into this year? Now we're a little bit beyond the draft, so we have an idea of what the team kind of looks like going into training camp. But what do you think of the team that's constructed right now, and maybe what has taken place to get to this point?
Yeah, I mean, they're in a very transitional period right now, um, because of losing Sylvia Fowles and all that stuff, and being in the lottery this season, which I know this franchise has a very like deep history of winning and being a playoff team, and so I think it's probably a little bit different for fans these days to have to go through this developmental phase. But I mean, they have a lot of good talent coming in. I think they did really well in the draft, considering where they were and the picks that they wanted and where they got them at. I mean, the fact that they got Dorka Juhas at, like, I think she was what, like 16th or something, was really great. And then they got that number 2 pick and all that stuff. So I mean, if they are willing to develop those young players and try to see where their young talent can come from. I mean, I know you've talked about this in our Winsider group chat and stuff like that, about how maybe they're not the most developmentally focused team. But I think it's a good opportunity for them to showcase some young talent and hopefully get spots for some of those young draftees. And at the same time, I mean, I think that the talent that they have on the roster is great too. I mean, Nafisa Collier, you can't go wrong. And then, I've obviously watched Bridget Carlton quite a lot, and she had an incredible performance at the World Cup in September. So I think she's going to really take a jump this year. And I hope that she's given the opportunity to play a lot more. And, it's just a chance for these people who maybe haven't had the opportunity yet to shine and get a lot of minutes, to show the team what they're all about and maybe take a leap and become those starters or those role players. And it's going to be an exciting time for them. I think this season is going to show like what the next couple seasons are going to be, and whether they're going to take the leap and be a playoff team this year or have a couple more years of development. So yeah.
I agree with that. I think that last week when I had Jack Borman, who helps cover I work with him and we cover the Lynx at Canis Hoopus, we kind of talked about this a little bit, that Yes, it'll provide, like, those Lynx will, or those rookies will get playing time. They're gonna get the opportunity, and that's maybe has been the case for a while,
Mhm.
or at least the last few years. But it's also a chance for, I think, for Cheryl Reeve and the coaching staff in the front office just to kind of take inventory of the whole team. I think it's an opportunity to, from the top down, kind of just look at what we have and what we want to have moving forward. And I do think that, even if they do end up having to play a lot of those rookies, and maybe they don't have the best year, that's okay. Like, they look at the draft class that potentially might happen next year. Like, if they're
Yeah.
in the same spot, I know everybody wants to make the playoffs. Nobody wants to quote unquote tank, and I don't think that'll happen for the Lynx this year anyway, or they won't deliberately do, or intentionally do that. But if that does kind of happen, if they have the same kind of year, they're going to end up getting a top player potentially in the 2024 draft. So it's a transition period. It's an opportunity for them to take inventory, see what they have, maybe develop a few pieces at the end of the year. If they are a playoff team, great. If they're not, they still have that development that is underway, and obviously a year in the WNBA will only propel those rookies and maybe even the younger players. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting year. I mean, it's weird looking at the bottom teams in the league, or who we think might be the bottom teams in the league. You see the likes of, like, Chicago, Seattle, Minnesota, I mean, potentially Connecticut. Like, those, in 2 years ago, those were top teams in the league, and now it's completely flipped. But it's crazy what the WNBA can do and how fast things can change.
Yeah, it's wild because yeah, there is only those, like 13 teams. And so things can switch really quick. And I'm glad I mean, last year there was a lot of parity in the league. I don't think I would say the same this year due to the whole super team aspect, but I think there's a lot of talent in this league. And I think that every team has at least like a couple or like a big two or a big three that are going to come out and really, play high level basketball every single game. So it's a very interesting time for a lot of teams. And I think the way that we're seeing a lot of these big names retire now, and I mean, that's why Seattle's going through a lot of change. That's why Minnesota's going through a lot of change. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see these young players kind of like come up and try and fill those shoes. I know, like thinking about the Lynx specifically, you get Dorka Juhas coming in who has already played professional basketball and collegiate basketball. Like, I don't think people understand how one good she is, and two, like how I think ready she is for this at this point, because again, she played professional basketball, then came and played 5 years of collegiate basketball. Like, this is a player who has already got a lot of playing time under her. And so I'm excited to see how that translates to the W. But then you also think about how, they already have a player coming in that's like primed and ready to go. So that's exciting for them. So
I agree with you now that you mentioned that when it comes to Dorka, like, that professional experience, I think, goes underrated a lot in the WNBA. Well, in any sport. I mean, having that professional experience, you look at, Luka Doncic in the
mhm.
NBA. Like, he played professionally, and he's still young, and they come in and they hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And the other thing with Dorka too is she played professionally, and then she played at UConn. Like,
Yeah.
not that UConn's necessarily the next step, but like that, if you're going to play collegiately, UConn is a good spot to go play, as are any of the top programs. But they all talk about, and Nafisa Collier talks about it. The other players that have come out of UConn too, they've talked about how Gino gets them ready to play in the WNBA, play professionally, play in that next level. And yeah, I agree that I do think she, maybe not a day one, but she could be a very quick contributor to the Lynx team, and they're going to need it, because they need somebody like her to kind of stretch the floor and come in and play right away. But yeah, it'll be an interesting year. I mean, we haven't seen a young Lynx team like this since I haven't, since I started covering the team.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see a new wave, which I mean, that happens in any sport, especially in the WNBA. You get the waves of the all-time greats leaving and the veterans leaving, and you get the up and comers. So
Yeah.
it's exciting. I think the league's in a in a very good spot, and I think it'll only continue to grow. But
Hmm.
when it comes to growing, we're going to shift back to general WNBA, and we kind of touched on a little bit, expansion.
Mhm.
Obviously, you're an advocate for Toronto or the Toronto area or really anywhere in Canada to get an expansion team.
Yeah.
What do you think? How many teams do you think that there would be in an expansion if there were one? And I guess where do you think? Let's assume that Toronto gets one. Where do you think would be another location?
Yeah, I mean, I think two is a good number. I mean, you kind of see the NWSL and they've added like they're just expanding like it's nobody's business, but they seem to have like one or two teams coming out every year that are new. And I mean, obviously the WNBA can't expand at that speed, but I think two would be a good number just to, get a lot of hype going, to get more roster spots, to, maybe be able to have a draft that goes beyond the top 10 to 15 picks. And obviously Toronto, I hope would be one of them. And I think the top spot for me for that other place right off the bat would be Oakland, the Bay Area. I think that they again would be another very supportive community for a women's basketball team. I think they also have a very, rich basketball history. You have the Warriors there that are, have been a mainstay for a very long time. And it's just, yeah, I think about geographically too. Like it seems that there's a little more teams east. So, bringing another one west if you're going to bring another one east. Um, and then, I mean, don't get me wrong, my American geography isn't like the best. So when I think about cities, like I don't, like I obviously know like the big cities, but when I think about a lot of people bring up Nashville, and I'm like, I don't really know enough about Nashville to know if that would be a good spot. Um, some people have brought up like Philly or Boston to me, and I'm like, I don't think so. And Florida's a big one too, but I mean, there have been teams in Florida. The thing about the WNBA is that there's been so many, movement of teams, not just like expanding or getting rid of or whatever. Like there's a lot of teams that were in one place and then they moved. So I do think it's kind of strange that there isn't one in Florida, but I think Toronto should get one first. So I'd be willing to wait. But yeah, those are just kind of the things that I've heard about. I mean, I've heard a lot about Portland too, but I just think that one's a strange one. Like I understand the city as a whole has a big women's sports culture but I just think it's like really close to Seattle. And that if you're gonna like make more teams, like why bunch them all up together? I don't know. But
I think
um
I think if you're going to surround maybe a team that's already existing with another team, it would probably be like the East Coast. Like you throw something over
yeah.
maybe by New York or maybe Boston. I agree that I think maybe outside I do think that Toronto and the Bay Area are probably the top two. I think
Yeah.
that if that's going to happen, it's going to be those two locations.
Yeah.
And I'm on board for that. I think that would be great.
Mhm.
If it was to be more, if they did add more teams, which obviously I'd be fine with.
Mhm.
Um, I do think the Nashville area would do well. I do think that people I look at the Tennessee Volunteers, like they have a
Mhm.
huge supporting. They could use I think a professional team there, and
True.
they've proven that they've been able to back a team.
Yep.
So that's somewhere where I'm a little bit more comfortable if that were the case.
Mhm.
The fact that I think the WNBA would look away from like say a Miami area in Florida just
Mhm.
because Miami Soul they didn't they obviously didn't last, they're not around anymore.
Yeah.
um I don't know. It's tough, and it's also a different era, a different era, a different time too. So
Yeah.
a team that maybe in Sacramento, the Monarchs, maybe they could have a team now. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah. Like those Sacramento fans, I'm watching them now in the NBA playoffs and I'm like, "Oh, those
yeah,
people, they're excited. It's fun." But
they've been waiting. They've been
they've been
waiting for a
waiting,
while.
yeah, for a while. So, maybe if you threw a WNBA team back in that mix, they'd,
Right.
continue to hype it up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and then when you think about in terms of Canada, I know you said like anywhere else in Canada. I mean, I feel like Toronto has to be. Maybe I'm biased. All these Canada people are going to come in and call me like a homer or whatever, but I don't know. I think Toronto is the best spot just because you have the connection of, the Raptors being here. And, there's a lot of other teams that are around here as well in terms of basketball or other women's teams. I also think Vancouver would be great, but again, very close to Seattle. So maybe not. Montreal is a huge basketball hub. So in the future, if we get more teams, basketball or Montreal would be a great place. So those are kind of like the big three, I think, in terms of people who are going to come out, support, spend money, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to think about where these new teams could go. And you also have to think about like a dynamic of like who is going to come out and support these women, because you think about a lot of cities and like, are those people going to come out and support women like as much as we need them to? So that's something to think about as well.
Mm-hmm. I think that if I had a say, and I don't, but if I had a say in what an expansion would look like, I would say two teams. I like we had talked about the Bay Area and Toronto.
Yeah.
And then, some people have talked about, 2 teams, 4 teams, what that might look like. I think you start with 2, and then you start to either expand rosters or you start to develop like a developmental league, like the NBA has the G League.
Yeah.
Maybe even creating a space where there's 4 teams in this developmental league, and they're, in this, maybe central United States or something like that, and they just play together. And, you could have limited roster spots, but it's more roster spots than what we have. You know what
Exactly.
I mean?
I think there is a need for that. And especially because you think about the draft these days and how, like I said, it's like a 15-person draft. Like anybody who gets drafted like 15 or above, you're like, oh, well, let's see if they make it. And so having that like minor league and also like being able to expand the rosters as well and maybe have like two-way spots and stuff like that so that players can come back and forth, get reps when people are injured, that kind of stuff would be really helpful, because then you end up having all of these players who are A, bouncing from team to team to team on 10-day contracts, or B, like they get drafted even top 10, top 20, and then they just like don't get on a team. And I mean, we were talking about this last night on our live stream about how it's still good for, their overseas prospects and agents and stuff like that to be like, oh, this player got drafted, they're so that it's good in that sense. But I also feel bad for the fact that, they want to play, if they're from the United States or Canada or North America, like they want to play at home, right? So yeah.
That's where I think Athletes Unlimited too is a good avenue to allow those players to stay home. I know that's at a kind of a different time, and it's not during the year, but I don't know, I think there's definitely room for growth there. I would even be, and don't take this the wrong way because I want a team in Canada, but I would be even okay with, maybe if the league decided that they wanted to just add a developmental league first and then expand. Like I said, I'm on board for an expansion of at least 2 more teams. But if they decided that was the route, rather than adding teams, adding maybe like a minor league team or minor league kind of league, I think that's the second best option, just because you're adding more possibilities and more playing time and more opportunity for women, which I think is definitely a good thing. But regardless, hopefully something happens. We're ready.
Something.
Yes, absolutely. I started doing this last episode with Jack Borman from Canis Hoopus, and I'm hoping you're okay with this, but I was going to maybe do some rapid fire questions for you.
All right, I'm ready.
You stole my first one. I was going to ask you if Toronto was out, what would be the next location, but we already covered that one. So one thing that we've talked about is in our playback. Shout out Arya for plug and playback on Winsider here. By the way, join us on playback on Winsider. We will be hosting stuff throughout the year. Chelsea is always hilarious to listen to on that, and offers a lot of good analysis too. So it's fun to tune into and join. One of these times I'll join on stage, but one thing we talked about, I don't remember when it was, but it was recently, was chips in Canada. What is your, so they obviously have some like ketchup chips and different kinds of chips. I'm still waiting for my shipment that you said you were going to send me. What's your favorite kind of chips that maybe we don't have here that you have in Canada?
All dressed 100%.
Ooh, So what is that?
So, okay, they're like a mix of like a salt and vinegar chip and like a barbecue chip. And I've like come to this conclusion because so many of you Americans ask me what they taste like. And it's like a tangy, vinegary, but like barbecue.
Okay,
It's delicious.
that
And
sounds
you
good.
have to get the Ruffles ones. Don't get any other kind. If you're coming to Canada for this Minnesota Lynx game, Ruffles, all dressed chips. Don't get the no name brand. Don't get Lay's. Don't get none of them.
Okay,
All dressed.
okay.
And if All Dressed ever wants to sponsor me, or if not dressed, Ruffles, I'll just go up there with Asia Wilson on the bag. It'll be fine.
Yeah, Chelsea and Asia.
Yeah,
The
the
two
duo
faces
everybody
of
wants.
yeah. What is there anything else in Canada that we don't have in the United States that pops into your mind first, like when it comes to like food like that?
I mean, like the whole Tim Hortons thing is a big one. I know
Mm,
there's some Tim Hortons is in like different places in America. But again, if you're coming up to Canada for this game, go to Tim Hortons, order an iced cap with chocolate milk. Natalie Achana was posting about it a couple weeks ago. That is the order. So Tim Hortons is another one. I mean, we have a lot of different candies and stuff. Like I know you in America have a different view of what Smarties are, but
yeah.
here Smarties are like M&Ms but more candy. Like the candy coating is different. So that's what we call Smarties here. Um, a lot of different like chip flavors. I was eating Ringalos last night on the live stream, and everybody in America was like, "What is a Ringalo?" And I
I've
was
never
like,
even heard of that.
"How do you not know what a Ringalo?" So have you ever had like a party mix chip, like where all the different chips
Yeah, I
in one
think
bag?
we call them basically like munchies. Well, I don't know if
Yeah,
that's the same thing, but it's like there's like Sun Chips, Doritos, Cheetos,
yeah.
pretzels.
So, but in the Munchies party mix, there are the little ring ones, or not in America.
Like
But then you can also buy them just by themselves, and they're just little chips that are shaped as rings, and
oh,
they're only barbecue flavor, and they're really good. It's like a corn chip in a
interesting.
circle. It's like a little tiny circle.
Huh.
Yeah. And
You guys have all the good stuff.
we have like Canada is like we got the snacks. I like am realizing this more and more as I like talk to American people. I'm like, Canada has like the snacks. I know like you guys have Trader Joe's, and like I would absolutely like die if we got a Trader Joe's here, because like I would spend all of my money there. But in terms of like the general snack, I think we're winning.
Canada, we have the snacks. It's not Arby's, we have the meats. It's Canada, we
Yeah.
have the snacks.
Snacks and universal health care. Come on
Yeah.
to Canada.
There we go. There we go. Um, next topic or next thing is favorite WNBA jersey. I know there were like the releases of the new look jerseys. What's your favorite?
My favorite of the new ones, or my favorite in general?
Let's start with the new ones and then go to general.
Oh, okay. My favorite of the new ones. I'm trying to like get them. Okay. I like the Washington Mystics one. It confuses me how close it is to the Aces, but I
Yeah.
like if we weren't thinking about the Aces at all, I think that one would be my favorite. It's really like nice and crisp looking. I do like the New York Liberty one, but it's like I don't know. I don't like how it doesn't have the name of the team on it. If it just says equality, I would rather
Mhm.
it say like New York or Liberty or something. Um yeah, out of the new ones, those are my favorite ones.
Sure. How about the just in general? Who
Just
has
in
your favorite
general.
favorite jersey?
I mean, the black New York Liberty
Mm.
ones are incredible. The Aces are all just very clean. Like I like their colorway. Um, who else? I'm trying to like go through all of them in my mind right now. I'm sure I'm missing ones that I like, but the Phoenix ones that are black with like the
Oh yeah.
fiery on the
Yep.
side, those ones are really cool. What else? Oh, the Stranger Things ones were so sick, and I'm so mad that they got rid of them. I was
Mhm.
like, I wanted an Aaliyah Boston Stranger Things jersey so bad, and now I that dream is gone, and I'm really disappointed about it. So
I do
that's
really like
upsetting.
the Connecticut color scheme, or like
Mm.
their scheme that they have, or their colors that they
But
have.
then they have a blue jersey, which is so
Right.
random.
Yeah. I also
Yeah.
think Phoenix could maybe go with like a new look. I think they're due
Mhm.
for maybe after the Tarasi BG era, maybe they kind of start a
Okay,
new
but
fresh
like
look.
the Tarasi era is probably ending soon. I don't think the BG era is going to
Well,
end
that's
for a
true.
very long time.
That's true.
She's like in her early 30s, late 20s. I don't even, she's
I
young
think
still.
early 30s. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah. So
She got time.
maybe when Tarasi leaves, you can't have Tarasi in a New Jersey. Like you just
Yeah.
gotta have her in. It's if they're gonna redo it, wait until Tarasi's
Hmm.
done because it would just
Yeah.
look weird. But
Yeah.
um, who's your favorite to win it all this year? I know for me personally, it's one of the two super teams. I think they're gonna meet up. But what do you think is who do you think's the favorite to win it all?
I mean, I'm biased towards the New York Liberty, so I'm going to say the New York Liberty. I've been a Brianna Stewart fan since like the literal second I started watching the WNBA. So I follow her wherever she goes. But that team just, the vibes of New York, the color scheme of New York, the like hype around it. I'm ready for it. And don't get me wrong, love Vegas, love that whole team, Candace Parker forever. But if I had to pick one, and also because they're closer to me, and I've actually been there, so that's
I've
my
never
like
actually been to
picking.
New York. I've
Oh, really?
never been.
It's a good time.
I want to. It's on my bucket list. I was actually
Yeah.
supposed to go. This was right before COVID. I was supposed to
Mm,
go to Boston for the first time for a work
yeah.
conference, and I was going to go to
Yeah.
a Red Sox game. I'm a big baseball fan, and then
Yep.
that obviously didn't happen. So
Yeah,
I've
that's
never
fun.
actually been to the
Boston,
East Coast.
Boston. Yeah, I've never been further west than like I was saying last night, like Michigan, which is so
Mm,
random. I went to
yeah.
Michigan one time. Um, but yeah, I don't think I've ever been further west than that. But yeah, New York, Boston, all good cities, good food,
Mm-hmm.
good vibes.
That's what
So
I've heard.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, let's see here. I gotta. Oh, what one favorite? If you could just pick one favorite, like sports moment.
Oh, like any sport, anytime.
Let's maybe say basketball moment, like and
Okay.
whether it's either covering or just like being a fan.
I mean, the Kawhi Leonard shot in Toronto
Mm,
is like a big one. Like I wasn't even following the league very much at that time. And I watched, I was there watching it, not there at the game, but I was watching it. And that whole run was incredible. But sports that I mean, I got to watch Serena Williams' last game in Toronto, like right before she retired. And that was like a really cool moment. And I got to like watch her practice like right up close
wow.
before that game because I was covering it, and that was really cool. I know as soon as I go to this WNBA game, that'll probably be up on the list as well. And I've been able to go and cover the Raptors games now this season, so that's been really fun. Just getting like that up close look at that and being able to like be in the press conferences and ask questions and um, kind of get my foot in the door there. As like a young woman in sports and whatever. So that's been cool.
When when it comes to the comedy side of your life, do you,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm sure people say this all the time, like, oh, can you just say a joke? Like, do you have like a go-to, do you have a go-to line or go-to joke that when people ask you that you say?
Like not really, because a lot of my comedy that I do is improvised, so I make it up
Sure.
on the spot. Which
Yeah.
like when somebody automatically is like tell a joke, I'm like I can't like I say I can't make one up on the spot, but they're
Yeah.
like I don't know, it's just not how it works. And usually I'm in like a different setting, but
Sure.
I know I should. That's a good idea to like come up with something that I just say.
Yeah.
But then again, a lot of it is like, and if I do stand up, like I used to do stand up before the pandemic and have been looking to get back into doing it, but again, all of that is very like story based and very like conversational. And so it's sure it's like set up punchline jokes, whatever, but it's not just like a knock knock joke, right?
Mhm.
So I should probably get like a good knock knock joke or a good, cheesy joke just to pull out when somebody asks that.
Yeah. Yeah. One last question for you,
Mm-hmm.
kind of Lynx related. Do you think that the Lynx finished with a better record or a better like placement in the league than they did last year?
Ooh. Yeah, I think so. I
Okay.
think there's a lot when you take out those two super teams, I think that there's a lot of parity now. And I think that there's a lot of teams that like to be blunt could probably do a lot worse.
Mhm.
So I mean, I think there's a lot of teams in a very transitional phase right now. And I do think that the Lynx have a lot of talent and that they could use that to their advantage. And Nafisa is going to be back, so
Mhm.
that'll be fun.
Right. I do think that, I mean, we've even seen this in the past years that basically from like 4 to 8, even 4 to 10 is normally pretty,
Yes.
it's pretty widespread. And it's, but all of those teams, you can maybe even say like 5 to 10, all of those teams are within a game or two.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the same way this year. I do think that the Lynx are going to be, which has happened the last like 2 years, not by design, but they've started off slow and they've picked it up as the year goes on. I think with a young team, that's definitely going to be the case again this year. But I agree that I do think that they'll finish a little bit better. I don't know exactly where. They're not going to finish worse than what they did last year. I don't know. I don't know. I think that they'll be kind of a similar spot, as what they were this past year, but I don't think they'll be worse. But so I agree with you there. But well, Chelsea, that's really all I have for you.
Cool.
For questions, I kept it a little light on the rapid fire questions, but I was mainly curious about that chips thing. So, but thank you for joining. I had a great time chatting about your life, about you, about the WNBA, and the potential of the game growing to Canada. So hopefully we get there soon, and we'll definitely have to chat again about that soon. And maybe we'll right after the Canada game we can kind of talk and touch base and kind of see how things went. Or we can check back in.
Yeah, that would be great.
Well, thank you again. I appreciate it. And before we sign off, can you tell people again where they can find you and if they want to follow your work?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter and Instagram just at Chelsea Leite, Leite. You can find me on the Winsider page. If you're interested in, I do a lot of like generic WNBA coverage just because I don't have like a team. So if you're interested in that, in Canada basketball, international basketball, the Toronto Raptors, any of that stuff, I do a lot of that. And then if you're in Toronto and you ever want to come see some comedy, I post all of my shows and stuff too. So
cool. Well, thank you, Chelsea, and everybody. Make sure to go follow her and follow her work, and join us at Winsider. Join us on Playback. Do all of that stuff. It's a fun time, and I know everybody enjoys doing it. So, thanks again, Chelsea, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Hitting the Hardwood podcast, and thank you once again to Chelsea for joining me as a guest this week. I also want to give another shout out to Jeremy Rushing for producing this podcast for us every week, as well as our latest patron to join our Patreon community, Robert. You can join our Patreon community to receive many perks, including exclusive news, information, coverage, analysis, and more by visiting patreon.com/hittingthehardwood. As we conclude, I wanted to share some additional news with all of you regarding a new partnership we've established here at Hitting the Hardwood. I'm thrilled to announce that we have partnered with our friends at Homage to provide another location to get some really awesome Lynx and WNBA gear. Currently, as I'm speaking, I'm wearing the Lynx blue hoodie sweatshirt that is one of the most comfortable sweatshirts I own, and I literally haven't taken it off since I got it. So it's definitely worth checking out, and I can vouch that it is extremely comfortable. Make sure to find out more information about that. You can make sure to follow us on Twitter at Hitting Hardwood, or you can follow me on Twitter at M_Hansen13. That's HANSEN 13. To find the links and the URLs for all the Minnesota Lynx and WNBA gear that I am referring to. Each item that you do purchase through those links on Twitter will help support this podcast. So we appreciate any support that you can provide for Hitting the Hardwood. Over the next week or so, I'm hoping to share with all of you some more information on another partnership we have in the works here at Hitting the Hardwood, as well as some other Hitting the Hardwood related news regarding some digital space, and I'll just leave it at that. It's some exciting stuff. I'm really excited to share with all of you. Until then, thank you for listening, and we will see you again next week.